Supernatural Season 8. And I gotta admit, I think this is the first season that I can say that I'm not that much of a fan of, though I'm hoping that the cliffhanger will lead to a bigger story arc that'll help it out. Because Season 6, it wasn't bad, but once you have Season 7 to accompany it, the story arcs that were started in Season 6 that weren't entirely finished, Season 7 ended up helping. So maybe Season 9 can help. I'll find out, won't I? So, but why was I not a fan of this? First of all, it had nothing to do with the change in showrunners. I'll get back to that. But the main problem I felt originally, especially during the first half, was that it felt like that this season had some continuity errors in regards to what had been happening in prior seasons. Because the way that they're talking about werewolves in this season, I don't know what it is. I can't describe it, though I'm sure that there are a few super fans who might be able to help, because I could have sworn I saw a random comment on Madison's episode that said later on they don't characterize werewolves like this. But I don't know. I think that what they just did with the werewolves here was different than before. Now, maybe it was because it was a pure blood or something different this time, but and don't get me wrong, I did like the episode, because unlike a lot of other people, I don't mind found footage nearly as much as a lot of other people. Oh, there are a couple of times that I go, okay, that wouldn't work, that kind of a thing, but this, I thought that they did really well at the end. And Sam and Dean's decision to actually not go after the last one, well, it would take a heck of a lot of effort to all track down one person, and you could tell that this person does have regret for how they are, and, offing yourself is still an option. Nah. Not while you're a werewolf, I think, but as the human, yeah. So, huh? But I can't help but think that that was different. Also, I'm sure that there was something that they mentioned in regards to either vampires or alphas this season that was different. Again, I can't describe it, but something felt wrong. That, I think his name was Martin Guy, the hunter that apparently Sam and Dean have interacted with before, that was going after the waitress friend of Dean's vampire friend. I think his name's Billy, the guy that he met in Purgatory, who then chooses to stay there, that guy. I don't know. I don't recall meeting this guy ever on the show. Now, granted, maybe it happened off screen, or it was just written in as something that happened in between episodes, like with what's that kid's face from last season, Jeremy, the one who had the demon exorcised from him, but then he wants the demon back, only for the demon to double cross him. Yeah, just, I don't know, that guy, I don't know, just kind of feels like a bit of a waste of the character than the character Garth. That guy kind of gets on my nerves, even though I know why they do it. It just, yep. And then, the big, yeah, and then, no. That's not a continuity error, that's repetition, sorry. So yes, talking about Dean's vampire friend that he met in Purgatory. How, he's defending that guy as not a bad person. Well, then Sam counteracts, but you didn't give Amy a chance. Well, there are differences, I 100% admit that, okay? Because Sam knew Amy in a library setting for a few days, basically, that he meets her again as an adult after she has killed somebody. Yeah, then he again knows her for a couple of days, so he knows that while her intentions are good, she does not have a spotless track record, but Dean, he was with the guy Billy, I think, in purgatory for a long time. Both of them had to have been there long enough to have shared all kinds of stories about the good, the bad, stuff they faced, all that jazz, fought alongside each other. So it is different, okay? That's enough time to form an actual relationship with somebody, but it's I still kind of agree with Sam in that it's not the same, especially since Billy ended up deciding to go back to purgatory, but it's a situation where neither of his obvious choices were doing that good, but you could tell that he had thought about it and was like, yeah, this is where I deserve to be. He doesn't want it, but he thought about it and was content enough with that decision. And even then, he tells Sam, get out of here, ruh. Even though Sam was the one that doubted him, he's like, yeah, get back to your brother. Tell him I'm sorry. Yeah. And of course, for all Dean knows, Sam could have been making it up, but he knows Sam long enough that with the amount of detail that he was able to give and the little bits that he picked up from Billy, it's actually not that surprising, all in all. So while I was surprised for a moment, I'm like, actually, yeah. How else could you have ended that story other than him just getting killed randomly, just like Ellen, Joe, Rufus? Yeah. So there is a bit of continuity error, but then there's a bit of difference at the same time. So all of this did bother me during the first half of the season, and then the second half, it honestly felt kind of repetitive, but the problem is, it's an 8-season show, all of whom have been 20-plus episodes, well, except for season 3, but since it seems like 23 episodes seems to be the new default number for this show, I wouldn't be too surprised if they do that for enough seasons to make up the deficit that season 3 had. So, 20-plus episodes, 8 seasons of the show, plus the anime that has some original content in it. There's only so much left to do, you know? So all the bit about not trusting Kaz, having to mingle in with Crowley, bringing back Kevin, which I was kind of surprised about, and kind of felt like that they were sort of wasting the character, unfortunately, and it's not because of the actor, okay? The actor played the character to a T. He did exactly what the producers and the writers wanted us to think. I can tell. The actor's great. It's just the character that stinks, yeah. Because, like, everybody who keeps saying that the Star Wars prequels are bad and then they're blaming the actors. No, the actors are just fine. Yeah, Hayden isn't the greatest actor, okay? I freely admit that, but the real person for you to blame is Lucas. I'm a Star Wars fan, but, you know, yeah. Yeah, it's the writers making the character unlikable, even though I wouldn't be too surprised if either that was intentional or it's just a character, you know, bitching understandably, because you gotta remember, he is a college student who had the rug pulled out underneath him. I had the rug pulled out underneath me right after I finished high school, thanks, Dad, but, you know, so part of me gets it, even though it's not fun to watch. It's probably one reason why I hated the character Finn in Glee, because I saw a few aspects of myself in him. I was never popular in high school. Not that I really wanted to be, but, yeah. So there were repetition stuff that made me dislike this season, but at the same time, maybe they just wanted it to be negative in that way, because season 4, it's negative because of the dark atmosphere. You can tell that something's brewing, along with the fact that the quote-unquote good guys aren't really what we would consider to be good. Season 5, much of the same thing, except this time there's an actual enemy that you can personify. Yeah. So maybe this season is negative just because now we're seeing the bad aspect of Sam and Dean fighting with each other, except this time they don't try to go their separate ways like they did in season 1, season 6, and I think that's it. Yeah. Although I do understand Dean's bit about not about being pissed that Sam didn't go into looking for her because Sam just more or less walked away, but Dean walked away because of a promise. Miss. Sam walked away because he felt like it, but that story arc, again, negative and a bit repetitious, but it's something that the show hadn't done before, so I admire them trying in that regard. But, yeah. So, yeah, I guess that's why I didn't really end up liking this season. Now, to tie back to what I was saying at the beginning, what about the change in showrunner not being a factor? Well, the problem is, when it comes to a TV show, even if you're trying to make the show similar, a change in who's the big boss, so to speak, is going to cause the show to have a bit of a different feel. Now, did season 6 have too much of an, oh my god, different feel than like seasons 2 and 3? Not really. It's just that we've seen the creatures now. What? Because Sarah had been involved with the show from the get-go. She's showrunner for a couple of seasons, then she chooses to leave to focus on other projects. So then this Jeremy guy comes in, who had been involved with the show at least on and off for a bit. I forget what exactly I heard about him, but here's the thing. Even though Wikipedia indicates that he's the sole showrunner, if you look at the credits for these episodes, you'll see that there's a big difference compared to prior seasons. Yes, like with prior seasons, they list multiple executive producers at the end because the producers take precedence over the writers and directors when it comes to TV episodes, although oftentimes the executive producers are also writers, at least in some capacity, but previously it was always just Eric Kripke or Sarah Gamble. If you look at the credits for the episodes of this season, you'll notice that while the Jeremy guy is on the first credit board, he isn't the only one there. Robert Senior is also there. So Wikipedia kinda has it wrong, because this shows that the Jeremy guy isn't sole showrunner. He might be top showrunner, but Robert Senior is also helping out as the last of the big three, so to speak, because I've been watching all the special features for this show, and they were always putting up Sarah and Robert Senior as people that were just as critical to the show, even though they weren't the boss. But Robert is the last one of them that has been there from basically the get-go. Wow. So it isn't just Jeremy here. Robert Senior is also affecting things. So, yeah, but what I'm getting at is, if you're a different showrunner, you have to put a little bit of a different spin on the show, but it doesn't have to be, oh my god, different, okay? Because there are tons of aspects of the show that still feel the same, and there's just things that are different. But things change over time on the show, okay? If you watch season 2 of The Office, and then you go to season 7 of The Office. Yes, there's a few things that are different. There's a couple characters that weren't there before, and a couple characters behave differently, and yes, there's a couple big relationship differences, but if you were to watch every episode, the feel of the show in season 2 is very different than season 7. Season 2, let's see here. They were still going a bit more for the humor versus the long-term story arc. Oh, they had long-term story arcs planned. They had tons of long-term story arcs planned, but when you get to season 7, it's as if that dynamic has flipped. The story matters more than the humor. And character development is more obvious because of how long the show has been on. Right, but because this is a show that has to deal with two guys constantly going after demons and not really ever able to settle down, even though there are times where they get close, you have to change other things. Who they're up against, who is working with them. That's probably why they got rid of Bobby. Yeah, they didn't want to get rid of Bobby, but it was time to go in a different direction. So now you've got different people helping them out, because I was right, they did bring back Charlie, and they brought it back more than once, to the point where at the end of the second time that we see her this season, she knows that she's part of the team, and she regards them as good friends of hers, even though it was kind of rough experiences dealing with things, but she's changed. So now you know that they're going to be bringing her back for more instances. Kaz, he was a regular for a while, then they get rid of him, but they keep bringing him back just enough to let you know we're going to be doing things with this character. He's not gone. You're just going to be seeing less of him for a while. He's going to matter again. Because they aren't using Balthazar, or who the heck was the annoying angel for the seasons 4 and 5? The bald old guy? I can't remember his name, right now, and no, it's not Michael. That's the embodiment that Dean and then later Adam was supposed to do. Kind of think of it, what happened to him again? I forget. But you know, now it's Amanda Tapping from the Stargate franchise. Things are changing. It's both good and bad. So yeah, the showrunner aspect, that has nothing to do with it. Okay? It's fine that they have a different guy here. Robert Sino's still keeping an eye on things. He's got it covered. Okay. That cliffhanger, I'm curious to see what they'll end up doing there. It was kind of sudden. I didn't feel like there was that much build-up. Trying to call off getting rid of Crowley at the last moment. Well, I forget the throwaway line that they had that made it clearer to either Sam or Dean, pretty sure it was Dean, that this would have untold consequences, but then also, you know, you close the gates of hell. Well, just because you can close them doesn't mean that it can't be undone. Pandora's box. Somehow they were able to get the sins within the box. And it was undone. Lucifer had all those seals trapped, but then you notice how he's been out of the picture for quite a while now? Although they seem to have ditched the story arc of, no, they brought it back in like 2 different episodes of this season, I think, unless I'm not confusing it with last season with the killer clowns. I can't remember. And then you have the Sam story arc where he's dealing with the trials. So I forget how that started, but maybe that has something to do with him not remembering anymore. Yeah, again, maybe if I watch next season, this will make the bigger story picture a little easier to see, and I hope that helps me out. Yeah. Okay, I think that this has gone on much longer than I wanted. I know that I spent a lot of my time complaining about this, but again, this is the first time that I felt like the bad stuff overpowered the good stuff. But I'm going to keep up with this. I want to see how this pans out, because I have become more aware of the fandom liking the show less as the show goes along, but like with just about any show out there, they all have different points that they mention it, but they never mention season numbers. They just mention a couple of things that I immediately at least stopped reading the comment once I realized, oh, it's spoiling it. I'm not looking up future stuff for the show. I'm looking at videos from prior seasons, and I'm not doing nearly as much of that because I know I'm going to see more and more of it, okay? Everything that I've seen is just little ramblings, no context. It's like with the last season of Lost, because I know that there's two different timelines, but I have no clue how that happens. And I know that the last shot is very reminiscent of something that you saw earlier in the show, okay? But I have no context for that either. So it's like, okay, I know this little bit. I can't do anything with that knowledge, huh? So yeah, I have a spoiler, but only that much. Right. So here's to hoping that I feel better about next season. See ya!